Hello everyone. Just trying to make sure that everything is working fine with the live stream. Seems like YouTube is telling me that there's some issue. However, it seems that everything is fine anyway. You know what seems to be the problem. Let's see how long it takes YouTube to catch up. But it's saying as if I'm not live for some reason. Huh? Is it loading or something? Is internet is fine. I know what the issue seems to be though. Hmm? Can you see me? Perfect. Okay, good. It seems that my YouTube thingy is a bit behind though. Let's see. I just need to make sure. Ah, okay. Perfect. We're back. Okay, so everything's good. Good, I can work with this. Okay, just adjust this and yeah. Can you see any people the current viewers because it's telling me there's okay, good. Well, something's wrong with my YouTube interface. That's fine. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I hope you're having a nice Sunday. Today we are going to start. We're going to kickstart a new schedule for Corso Workshop. Those of you who have been, having a look at the channel wallpaper, basically the background on top, the banner. You'll see that there are times now and days stipulated for when content is going to go up. I'm going to try and be a little bit more regular in my uploads. So basically, correct me if I'm wrong, Trisha, because she's actually managing all this. I'm just doing the rest of the work. We're going to have Tuesdays, we're going to have short videos up on Tuesdays. And on Saturdays, we're going to have alternating uploads between shorts and content videos that will give me enough time to work on projects and make sure that they're up to scratch and up to the quality which I like, which is very basic quality, but it's the best I can do, and I am happy with the results I get. Also, there will be a bit of a more standardized schedule on Instagram on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Tuesdays. Is it? I think so. Where basically, and then the live stream on Sundays, of course. So live stream is always going to be on Sunday about this time. Okay, it's going to be 4 p.m. CET up until about half six, seven, depends what kind of project we're working on. Okay. Um, is there a problem? Everything okay? Good. Good. So the only exception is going to be obviously there's going to be an exception, which is going to be next week. Next week Tuesday is going to be the content video upload, and then Saturday is going to be the short. I'm swapping them around because next Tuesday is May the 4th, and May the 4th is Star Wars Day, and I'm going to upload a Star Wars themes project, which those of you who have been following the live streams in the past, as well as some updates on Instagram. I'm working on the Jedi Holocron. The video is rendering right now upstairs and on the computer, so I hope it's something that you will enjoy watching. It will be up for patrons. It will be available for patrons, I think, later on tonight or tomorrow morning. So if you would like to have a look at it before everyone else, make sure to go hop on Patreon, and there's links in the description. And basically, yeah, so on Tuesday you'll be seeing the results of the Holocron, which started about 3 or 4 weeks ago now. So today we'll be doing a bit of a chill live stream. I don't have any big projects in mind. We're going to be doing a simple, we'll be doing a leather carving live stream. This is the artwork which I'll be using. It is not my own original artwork. This is artwork by Dark Horse Workshop. I bought this some time ago. Or was it like a Patreon reward? I think it was a Patreon reward, something like that. So yeah, I'll be using this. I'll be putting it on a vegetable tanned leather quiver. Okay. It's not the first time I'm using this sort of quiver. I'm making this sort of quiver. So yes. I think it's going to be cool. So yeah, I've got also some other parts for the quiver as well, which is the what do you call it? This is the belt loop, okay, with the Corso Workshop logo pressed in it already. This was done ages ago, so we've been waiting in my workshop for me to finish, procrastinating and finishing this project really. If we have time, we'll start assembling it together. But I think at this point, the most important thing that we can do today is doing the leather carving. I'll be doing basic techniques. I'll be walking you through my process as we go along, and I think it's a well-deserved chill Sunday. We've had a bit of a very packed week, Trisha and I, and that's saying something. So yeah, a chill Sunday carving time is all we need. So let's hop over to the other camera. And over here, you'll be able to see the work surface. And for once, I'm actually working in front of the leatherworking station. Usually work over to my right over here. Maybe perhaps the camera needs to be a little bit further back so you can have a better look at what I'm doing. Okay. Yeah, basically, those of you who have not seen my leatherworking station, there's a video on YouTube where I did the sort of not refurbishing, but not even remodeling, but I sort of did up the workshop area, the workbench, and I unboxed the the leatherworking tool station. Really useful. So yeah, have a look at that if you'd like. I hope the sound is fine. If there's a problem, please say in chat. And hey, we've got the first comment of the afternoon. Hey kid, how are you doing, Clever? So we're going to start. Let me maybe move the microphone a little bit closer so that the sound is a little bit clearer. But I think, yeah, let's do this. I think this is fine. This should be fine. So today we are going to do leather carving. We're going to be using a very simple technique for carving leather. Those of you who have seen my videos before or seen leather carving videos in the past know that the first step to carving leather is to always wet it. It's to wet the leather, okay? I'm going to just hop over quickly to this thing to wet it quickly with a sponge so that I don't make a mess over here, and I'll be right back in a second. We can quickly start carving in a minute or two. Okay. Excuse me. Doing well? Oh, good. Good. So, we need to wait a bit for the leather to soak up and saturate evenly. I like to usually help it along a little bit so that as it doesn't pool. This piece of leather has been sort of laying flat in my workshop for quite some time. Inevitably, it's going to be bumped a bit and have some ridges on the edges, curved up edges. So that is an area where it can pool water, like around the middle. Okay, basically, if you're just joining us, first of all, welcome. Today we'll be doing leather carving, specifically this design. Let me show it on the bigger camera. Specifically this design by Dark Horse Workshop, and this is vegetable tanned leather, and we're carving this on a quiver. So that's where we're going to start. While this saturates a little bit more, I just want to cut this closer to the design so that I don't have a lot of paper to deal with. Okay. This we can get rid of. Okay. Now, if this were something which I'll be reproducing very often, I would have probably printed this on some more durable paper, or perhaps transferred this onto one of those templating papers. But basically, this is a simple A4 paper which has been printed on my laser printer, and it does the job just fine. Now the leather seems to be quite cool to the touch, and it's time to see where we're going to be carving. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this quiver will be folding over in a teardrop shape, like the usual style that I make, okay? So let's see. This is going, it needs to be carved like this perhaps, or like this. I should have probably inverted the image. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, the carving is going to be like this. I think it's better if I were to invert it. What do you think, Trish? It's better, right, if I make the wolf look the other way? This way the wolf will look. Okay, cool. This is the way it's going to be right now. So that's not bad. What do you think? We invert it quickly? We can print it upstairs. Okay. I'll send the print to the printer quickly. So this is okay. And this is this wolf. Perfect. I'm just going to be printing this on the laser printer upstairs. Luckily it's wireless, so I don't have to go upstairs to print it. And let's put two like this. Perfect. Oh wait, oh, it's not installed on this printer, on this laptop. I can't, because if I flip the paper the other way, the wolf comes upside down. Like this, you mean? But I won't be able to see through. Yes, but I'm going to carve it on it. Oh. If I had a light box, perhaps. Perhaps. Oh, never mind. So let's see if I have another one somewhere here. Usually keep my designs like this. Serpents I have. Perhaps this one. No, this one's for Ilya. Do me a favor, can you go print it for me upstairs, please? Huh? Alright, I can prepare the inversion for you. I will leave it on Dropbox. Let me just edit this. Okay, just a second. No, there's no need to send it by email. It's going to be in the Dropbox folder. No. Okay. Let's just sort this out quickly. I'm going to send it to myself. That's going to be on my email. Well, Tisha just ran upstairs quickly to print this inverted thingy. Can I just... Well, nothing ever goes to plan immediately, does it? But the wolf looks this way. That's the way. Yes, that is the right orientation. We'll be right back. No. Down. There we go. That is sent by email. I just need to get it printed and we'll be back on track. The leather seems to be doing just fine. Let me just check with you. Okay, back we have this. Perfect. Okay, so this is the inverted version of this wolf. Perfect. Let's just cut this down to size and start carving now. So this we don't need. This we don't need. Oh, okay, it needs to be carved on like this. Perfect. Because then this is going to be on like this. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, yes, yes. This is the right way to design it. Okay. Now the leather is cool to the touch. Perfect. We can start. Now I'm going to start with a ballpoint stylus. I don't know if it is very visible or where the camera. There it is. I don't know. But good. Okay. Hmm. Insta. Sure. Now, I think I'm going to have this line parallel with the stitch line, and let's start. And we're off. Basically, what the ballpoint stylus is doing is it is scoring lines on the leather underneath. Basically, I'm using the paper as a guide, sort of show me where I need to carve. Since the leather is sort of damp, it basically lets me press, like these kinds of designs on it. I won't be able to show you until I finish because I don't want to misalign the design over here, because then that will be a problem for me. But I can sort of hold it in one place and see where I've done. Technically, do the same thing over here. See, I don't know if it's visible down there, but like there's a little scoring on the leather. You can use anything from a pen to a pencil on this. You can also score directly on the leather. I wouldn't recommend it because, like, at least for me, it helps me that I have this guide. Obviously, we won't be carving like the shading and that sort of thing, but the artwork, is really good. It's really brilliant. I mean, Magnus from Dark Horse Workshop makes like amazing designs. You need to really press it into the plug. Yes. Okay. Mel says hello. Hello, Mel. How are you doing? That's a very pretty design. Oh, thank you very much. Again, it's not my design, so I don't want to take credit for it. It's by Magnus from Dark Horse Workshop. But it is really cool, isn't it? Now and then I try to make sure that I am keeping everything, like marking everything. So if I have to cover most of the design by hand for now, but yeah, I have to do that to keep everything and make sure that it doesn't move, so keep everything in place. Again, something like the crosshatch design, I won't bother tracing on, but I will do it um, with the swivel knife later on. So okay, there we go. I don't think so, no.
Having coffee while watching your stream.
Ah, cool. Thanks. When is your next video coming out? I'm really looking forward to it. Okay. I think we got all the design. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's it. Well, we missed one line over here, but that's fine. We can just add it on. Alrighty. It's a very cool design. So this time I'm going to work the other side on the other way around because it's easier for me to carve this way. I'm going to remove my watch so it doesn't scratch up the leather. Yeah. For some reason, the stream today is having a little bit of a tough time uploading. I don't know why. It's like red all the time, like the status of it, and I honestly don't know why there's problems with it. You're not seeing any problems with this stream, right? Well, technology is technology, so you know. So this is jeweler's rouge. It's a compound used to polish in my case the ceramic blade for the swivel knife. And swivel knife basically is this little device over here. So basically this is a blade. Okay, I've used this in videos before. I may have explained this in the past as well. You can find these in steel or in ceramic. In my case, I find the ceramic ones very useful. Um, I find them in all shapes and like even double groove, so we can carve like two lines parallel to each other. Basically, the trick with this knife is that it swivels. Like if I hold it from the top, you can see it turns. So the idea is you keep your finger on the top and you swivel, you swivel around while you draw it and while you carve the design, okay? Now, let's see if I can get the camera a little bit closer. It seems very faint on my screen, but I hope you can see it just fine. Perhaps I can move it a little bit over here. Okay, good. All right, let's get into it. Before we start carving, we're just going to polish the ceramic blade, and that's basically by rubbing it against a leather strop with some jeweler's compound on it or jeweler's rouge, okay, polishing compound. Basically what this does, it polishes the blade and helps it glide much smoother Make sure to remove all the jeweler's rouge from the blade, because otherwise it will actually transfer onto the leather and almost stain it. It's very difficult to get it out once you put it on the leather. So let's start from the ear. I don't know if there is a better way to show this, but on my current setup, I think this is the only way we can do so. Now, one thing I'll keep in mind is, as much as possible, I'm going to try and go steady so that the line weight is consistent throughout my carving. Also, I'm going to avoid finishing the lines while I'm carving towards me. And that way, I won't overdraw or overcut one line over the other, and I can go back later on after I finish the main carving and go back and finish all that, and they'll end up being very, very neat. So yeah. Okay. Inevitably, I will forget to carve something, and eventually, I mean, I'm going to go back and recheck my work. But yeah. If you find that the leather is being very grabbing, it probably means it needs to be saturated with water a little bit more, or perhaps it's drying out, and it does dry out very quickly in my workshop. We live in a very warm country, so. And as much as possible, I'm going to try and um, as much as possible, I'm going to try and keep the blade perpendicular to the leather, so it doesn't have like undercuts or overcuts. Okay. Now over here, for example, I'm going to turn it around and work this way. Using the swivel knife, I'm going to do the turn like so. Avoid going in towards the edge and just come back and finish the lines from the other side. Okay, and we're already getting something on the leather. See? It's a very simple procedure. I think it needs to be moistened a little bit more. So let me get a sponge with some water. I can do that periodically. Not the cleanest sponge I have over there. Ooh, this is definitely not good. This we can throw away. Okay, just going to keep. It's good to keep a towel handy. Basically, I'm just using a regular kitchen sponge. You can use any sort of sponge which basically does the same job. Now, I try to saturate the leather evenly all throughout, like not just the area that I'm carving, because usually water tends to discolor some pieces of the leather. Okay, tends to make it discolored, so it's good to keep it even. If you want, especially if you want to dye it afterwards, unless you're dyeing black, and if you're dyeing black, you don't need to really mind that much. Okay, so next, let's do the nose. Now these are a little bit intricate and they are a little bit tricky, I'll admit. I haven't carved in quite some time now, so I'm just trying to take it slow and steady so as to avoid mistakes. The worst thing I can do right now is to overcut a line. Um, Undercutting is fine, you can end up going over it again. But if you manage to score a line which you don't want scored, you're going to have a very tough time to correct that. In my experience, at least from my knowledge, it is close to impossible. to fix something like that. Usually in that case I start over. So yeah. No. The head seems to be one of the most intricate places, so I'm going to spend some time doing that neatly. The rest of the parts seem to be rather large or long strokes, so those will be fine. Okay, thank you. Okay. While we're at it, I just want to thank Trisha, who has recently been promoted to a fake position of Chief Executive Creative Officer and Administrator. I'm calling her Chief while on stream. Thank you, Chief. She's on the comments. Okay. How's the camera angle over there? On camera. Should it is it visible what I'm doing, or because I have a very tiny monitor and I can't really um somewhat. So let's see if we can. How can we fix that?
No, as in, I mean,
I'm trying to see if I can get the camera closer.
as in you can tell it's a wood.
Okay. What if we do the? No. Never mind. Let's keep it.
No, you can see it's fine.
Okay. Alrighty. No. I should. On that one, no. Is that Garrett's? No, you don't. Okay. Now, is there anything else that I need to do in the face? Yes, there's this curly thingy by the ear.
Congratulations, Trisha. Hope that means an increase in salary.
Yeah.
I'm being paid 5 extra nuggets a month.
I don't know if you heard her, but she's being paid 5 extra nuggets a month. Nuggets is a real
The
currency,
McFlurry
guys.
on alternate Thursdays.
What?
The McFlurry on alternate.
That was never negotiated in the contract. Yeah. Nuggets is a real currency, and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Huh? Okay. Obviously, while carving, it does allow for some adjustment, not a lot though. So, um, design is, I think, crucial for leather carving. So, preparing ahead and you know, as in preparing the layout ahead. For example, over here, I know that this is just going to be just enough for the carving. Um, it's kind of crucial. So yes, so make sure to prepare. Okay. Oh wait, sorry, I was covering. That's okay. Okay. We're making progress, making progress. So we just need to connect these bands over here. Again, making sure not to overshoot and just going back of nice clean lines. Now this is one of the areas which is going to be cross hatched. I'm talking about the area on the neck over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do basic cross hatching over here. It doesn't need to match the design perfectly, it just needs to look good. Basically, instead of doing two cross hatches like I usually do, I'm just going to do one, so as not to sort of go overboard on this. Okay. That looks really nice. That looks really nice. I'm just going to go back and finish the scores. Okay. And then just redo the line so that it's neat and clean. Okay. Coffee. Good. Let's keep on. Let's go ahead. Okay. I keep on I keep on blocking the design with my head because I always tend to get close when I'm concentrating. Let me see if I can just move it a little bit closer over here. Okay, I always say that I keep on getting in my own way, even when I'm filming for videos and for like the project videos. I always get in my own way. Okay. Now this has like a claw thingy over here. Good, good, good. Going back and making sure that all the cuts are neat and consistent. Like over here, for example. Just complete all the cuts. Anywhere where I think I've been a little bit too shallow, I just go back and adjust it. Make sure not to go over beyond where you've carved, because that's very difficult to repair. Okay. Okay, I need to move it closer. There's a lot of traffic going on outside, which is not unheard of in my street, but today it's quite noisy. So I apologize if there's a lot of background noise. I don't know if it can be picked up on the microphone, but yeah. Okay. These like triangle design thingies. I don't know what they're called, like bands. Uh, Let's not forget them. And if you feel like you can't do the curve, like a very tight curve, because sort of maybe the leather is a little bit resistant, it's fine if you just do it in small cuts. It's all about pushing the leather in the way you want it to go. So don't feel intimidated if it's not going as easily as you thought. Also, the kind of leather really makes a difference. Okay, that's one band, and then I'm going to go back and just finish all the lines which came out of it, complete them, so it's a nice and crisp design. Noticing that the ear here is a little bit shallow, so I'm going to go and open that up. It really doesn't matter if it's an outline because I'm probably going to go back and bevel it, so don't worry too much about that. What's the
Mel told you noisy. That's not noisy.
Are there any Mexican bands out in the street today, Mel? Okay, over here, I may not have done it as clean as I wanted to, but it works. It just works, as Todd Howard would say. Okay, let's go back on the end and finish it so that it looks clean. I'm not doing my best job today, I'll admit. Not the best carving I've ever done, but we'll bring it out with some stamping and beveling. So yeah.
Surprisingly, not yet.
There. So let's have to go close and make sure to do this neatly. The paw and toe. Okay. This looks more like a hoof, so perhaps adjust it a little bit to take it a little bit inwards from here. That looks a little bit better. That's a little bit better.
What type of leather is good for carving?
Um, in my experience, it's vegetable tanned leather. There are chrome tanned leathers and even oil tanned leathers, which are, I won't say good for carving, but can be carved. But the majority of the leathers which are easier to carve are vegetable tanned leathers. Something like this. Vegetable tanning basically involves a process which uses natural tannins and tree bark and that sort of thing. So it also is a more chemically friendly process, little bit more environmentally friendly because it doesn't use like chromium salts and that sort of thing. With no, it's not really a heavy metal, but it's a metal compound. So yeah, um, vegetable tanning I think is the most common of the lot when doing carving. It has its disadvantages. It's definitely not good for keeping water out, so you'll need to treat it if you want it to be waterproof. Something like this, I'll do a coat of resist or two on it to make sure that even in the rain, people can still use it. but usually would use something like oil tan for weather resistance. Okay, but for carving, it's vegetable tanned leather. Good question. Keep on coming. How's it going, Chief? Good. Now the design is a lot more visible on the leather. Now, one reason why I like carving designs made by Dark Horse Workshop is because when I make my own designs, I always keep myself in mind, my own limitations. So I'll be designing stuff with the intent to carve it later, knowing where my shortcomings are. Doing something like this puts me a bit out of my comfort zone. Um, so it's actually quite a challenging carving when you think about it, because even though the very first carving I ever did um, was just a simple geometric design, and then the one following it was um, my quiver, which was also a Dark Horse Workshop design. It's a bounding wolf. Um, Basically, since then, I've always sort of made my own designs, sort of its own fitting, right? Okay, we're finishing up the outlines, and then we'll just go cross hatching the rest. I see that the cross hatching is here, here, and here, but not on the rump and the tail. So we'll leave those cross hatch free. Okay. Uh, the leather could do with a little bit more moistening. Let me just see to it quickly. Without destroying my workshop. Yeah, the chief is laughing. Yeah. Okay. So let's just make sure to do the whole piece as explained earlier. If you are just joining us, welcome to the Corso Workshop Livestream. Today we are doing leather carving on a leather quiver, or carving on a leather quiver. And oh yeah, something else I forgot to do earlier. Make sure to also, if there are matching pieces, piece of wire in it, but if there are matching pieces, make sure to um, sort of damp them up as well, so that they have the same overall tone when you go to dye everything together. So yeah. What's this? Pieces of metal in the sponge. There's everything. Yeah, it's not an ideal situation. It is what it is. Sip of coffee. Okay, give it another minute or two to properly absorb the moisture. If you end up carving on wet leather, you'll end up mushing the leather, and it won't cut. It will merely just squish, and you can probably cut it. It will leave a lot of like ripples in the skin, and it's not very nice. Again, I'm not an expert, it's just my experience. So you can feel the leather will be ready when it is not wet, but it feels cool to the touch, and right now that is the moment. Okay. We forgot one band over here, so let's just see to it quickly. Well, I forgot. I don't know why I keep saying we. It's like the team spirit. We're all a team, right? Right, Chief? Yeah.
When we do something, Master Trisha can laugh every time she wants. I think Mel knows what she's on about.
Hamel knows what she's on about. I think you're growing a bit of a fan base already.
Ha.
You're like the counterpart, like how William Osman has caretaker. I have the chief.
Less so trying to stop you from killing yourself.
Well,
Somehow hurting yourself.
well, I mean, you did already ban me from making like pyrotechnics in the garage, so.
What a good reason.
Okay, so let's do the crosshatch. I just wanted to do like a sugar rocket. To be fair, I never even looked at the Maltese law, and it
Sounds like a kid.
and it.
Did you want to make a sugar rocket?
Yeah, I always wanted to make a sugar rocket. I don't even think they're legal in Malta. To be fair, I have to look up the law. I'll ask my brother. It's fine.
Somehow I don't think that's what they learn in the law course of Malta.
We'll ask. I mean, you don't learn how to poison people in pharmacy, but I'm sure you know how. See, she doesn't comment it. She just sniggers underneath and she laughs. Yeah, the chief is a pharmacist, by the way. And a quite good one, from what I hear. Can I make sugar rockets now?
No, but I googled sugar rockets more than the first thing that came up was where to buy potassium nitrate. And I'm pretty sure I'm on some kind of a watch list. INSA.
For those of you who have not heard, the first when Chief looked up sugar rockets in Malta, the first thing that came up on the Google search was where to buy potassium nitrate. Yeah. So now she's on some kind of watch list for thing. Let's not explore that train of thought any longer. Not on live stream. Okay, so we are moving on with the carving. Okay. What's the time? Oh, okay, we've been at this for an hour and a half already.
No.
Oh, we started at 4, right? Not at half 3. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So I'm just trying to keep a consistent design so I don't sort of make it look jarring. Okay. Again, I'm making sure not to what do you say, overcut. Not overcut, but overshoot with the swivel knife. And now I'm just going to sort of retrace lines. Okay. Okay. One last line which we need to do over here, which I missed earlier. Okay. cross hatching over here. As next, let's just do it like this. What happened? Hmm? Ah. Okay, now let's match the design. So the bottom ones go this way. Yes, they do sort of mirror the top, but this also kind of makes sense because it's like the design is flowing this way, right? Or some other excuse which makes me look like I actually intended this to happen. Huh? Super profesh. Okay, that is the last carving we need to do. We've got about another hour to go. What do you think? I think we could probably dye everything now. No, wait. First, we need to stamp stuff. So maybe not dye just yet. Stamp. Okay. Good. Let's just put this with a knife in its place. Ah, hand starts to cramp up. And this is the design. Let me try and put it on camera. Hmm? That's very nice. So I am happy with that. I think we can start stamping. I'm just going to move the camera a little bit further back. I need the marble or quartz slab, whatever this is. The idea the reason people use like a hard surface like a quartz or marble slab on sort of this for this purpose for stamping and tooling is because it's basically because it absorbs it doesn't actually absorb the blow, so it just the leather is the medium which is absorbing the most force, so makes the designs look crisper. And I think Clever went through this in one of his latest videos, which I think were leatherworking tools or leatherworking tips, leather tools they were. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead again and just give it a quick dampening. Don't forget to dampen the rest of your pieces as well to make sure that they come out in a consistent color. No need to do the flesh side, always do the top side, the skin side, whatever you want to call it, the grain side. Okay. Now, I usually use one beveler, which is this. This is the beveler which I use most often. It's got a sharp point. I need my rawhide mallet for this. Ideally, you don't use a rawhide mallet for this. Ideally, you use a wooden or poly maul. A maul is like this piece of the hammer with a handle underneath, like this. Right? So you'll have like this piece and the handle underneath. The idea is that it is a little bit more gentle than a rawhide mallet, which I have over here. You use the tools that you have. I used to use a hammer. Ideally, you don't use metal tools on metal punches and stuff like that because it ruins them. That's all I had at the time, so obviously that's what I'm going to use. That's what I used. Now I'm noticing that I'm going to cover most of this, so maybe I can move the camera on the other side. Okay. 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 Good. This is what we are working on. Okay, so basically I'm just going to go on about the outline of the carving. one hammer blow at a time if needed. Let me know if this sound is a little bit too much. Once I do a whole line, I usually tend to go back, sort of smoothing it to make sure I even out all the different hammer blows, okay? Um, I try to do the lines which are furthest away from me so I can always see where the tool is going. I don't do it this way because I'll have to just feel the lines towards me. So I'll flip the piece around later and do the other side, okay? One one thing you need to keep in mind is that it's very important to keep the tool perpendicular because otherwise you'll have um, an uneven bevel. Also keep the hammer strokes even as well, but otherwise you have a bit of a wavy outline. It helps to run the tool over the areas you've just done. It just is not a, you know, it's not a silver bullet. It doesn't cure everything, but it helps. I'm going to go over some of the pieces as well I want to accentuate, like for example this piece, these pieces over here, like to make the feet, the arms and the thighs stand out a little bit more. But first we're going to be doing the outline. It's not too loud. Okay. It almost sounds like The Sims. Okay, go over this. Obviously, I have been very uneven over here. I can see the different hammer strokes. So I'm basically going back and smoothing out the transitions between one stroke and the next. Be careful not to slip and ending up pressing over the design because I've done that in the past and it ruins your day, not just the project. So just be very careful when doing this. Okay? Good, good, good. Okay. Okay, that's the face. All these cars today, man, I really can't understand why. Go, go. Go shoot them away, Chief. Okay, again, smoothing out the transitions between one hammer stroke and the next. Looks okay. Looks good. Looks decent. Now, I'm going to do the other lines which are facing towards me or which are easier for me to do right now before flipping the piece over. Okay? Good. Just رمض الجراج خليه مش absorb you, please. Thank you. I'm just holding the hammer higher up towards the head. That way, it's a more of a lighter tap rather than an actual hammer swing. I don't need to do a very hard hammer swing unless I am stamping like something like a design, you know, like a flower or something on it. In this case, I just want to bevel some of the leather deeper in. All right. Oh. By any chance, since we've had a discussion, do you know the law, the Maltese law regarding sugar rockets? No. Oh well, we tried.
No.
Okay. We can flip the piece over and start working on it the other way around. I'm going to try and avoid. Okay. Come on, Nanisha. Okay. Thank you. Now, make sure to have the core slab in place. Just go around and do the other side. There we go. Cool. Mm-hmm. It needs a little bit more dampening. Let me put a little bit more water on the sponge. Okay. Doing the rest of the pieces as well off camera quickly. Okay. Good. Those are set. Okay. Good, 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 good. Okay. Let's continue. See, I shouldn't be doing this on this side. I will turn it back and do it later. It's a little bit like awkward for me to do in the current orientation. Okay. I'm only going to be doing the hammer strokes on the beveling tool on the outline only. On the inside, I'm just going to go and hand press it there, just to give it a little bit of depth, that's all. I don't want to do anything more than that. Okay, and this is also why it is important to cut the line, carve the lines completely from one end to the other, because once you go to bevel, you'll end up seeing lines which are not carved completely, and that looks really, really untidy. Okay, we're at the neck piece. Once we do this, we'll have done a whole circuit around the wolf. And we can also sort of go back and touch up some areas which we have not done as neatly. But I am very happy with this design. I'm very happy indeed. Once again, it's not my own design, so if you'd like to acquire it yourself, you can go on the link down in the description below, and there is a link to Dark Horse Workshop website where you can buy this design. It's not my own, so I don't want to take credit for it, but it's a really, really good and nice design, so I don't mind promoting it. Not that I could promote Magnus, but anyway. Okay, all we need to do is this paw over here, and we're going to turn around the piece again just to make sure we get it nice and neat. Okay, so in some areas where it's a little bit rough, I can go back with the tool and just smooth it out by hand. Even push in some corners which I may have missed with the hammer. Okay, like in here, for example. Now let's move the camera back to the other side so you can see the rest of the hand pressing, sort of the hand tooling that I'm going to do. Okay, just put that here so it's out of the way. I don't need the rawhide mallet anymore, so that can go back in its place. And trying not to destroy my workshop. Okay. Okay. Good. So all I'm doing is taking the tool and just hand pressing some areas which I want to be raised, like for example around these bands. I know that there would be some depth, so I would just go around and just press the tool. Be very careful not to let it slip away from you like it just did. Now, for example, over here, the spiral, I don't need to do the whole spiral. I just need to do the pieces which I know that are going to be raised. So like till here, okay? Just gives it a bit of a wider edge. That's all there is. Obviously, I'm not going to be shading, so I don't need to worry about that, but yeah. Also, it doesn't mesh up the cross hatching so badly, so that's always a good thing. That's why it's one of the reasons why I dislike beveling. I don't really dislike it per se. It's just the fact that um, it doesn't really help with cross hatching. So like the head obviously is going to be elevated from the rest of the body, so I'm just going to be hand pressing it in there. Good, up until the jawline. The jaw itself, the lower jaw will go under the upper jaw, so just press it like so. And finally the eye, the rim around the eye, could do with a little bit of accents. Yeah. Let's see over here. Let's do both sides of this. You could do this with a V style scoop, like a modeling scoop that they like people use for what it's called, clay modeling or clay sculpting. That would be a really good one to use. In this case, I do not own one, so I use this usually. Okay. Trying to see if there are some other areas which require this sort of treatment. See, there was a piece of jeweler's rouge in there. Even here, I'm noticing there is a really tiny piece. Because otherwise that will show up when you go to dye the piece. Otherwise it looks fine. What do you think? Good? Good. I'm just going to carve a single line across this edge over here. Actually, I can leave it as is. This is sort of carved up already using a stitch groover. So I don't really need to do that. That's fine. I think actually we can start dyeing this. We can dye this. And then I think we can just do the dyeing today. We'll dye this piece, we'll dye the other pieces as well with it to match it. Basically these pieces go like this. There will be an O-ring in here, okay, and another sort of, and it ties onto this, so this can swivel a little bit freely. Now this will be fastened somewhere around here, so that it depends where I want the middle point to be for the quiver. I think somewhere around here. Yeah, somewhere around here, I think. Somewhere, let me show you. Somewhere around here, so it balances around this angle. Obviously, the deeper I put it, the flatter down it will be, and the shallower I put it, the higher up it will be as a quiver. It's always down to the preference of the client, since I was given a little bit of free reign on how to make this, because I'm actually going to be trading this quiver for a bow. I think, of course, I need to take into account the weight of the arrow, so maybe perhaps a little bit higher up, somewhere around here will be fine. Yeah. So I'm just going to mark it. I actually need to see. Yeah, it's fine. That's fine. So let's mark it with the stylus. So then later we can just poke a hole there, put a rivet through, and put everything together. First, dyeing. Good. Okay, so let's clear up the workspace first. I don't need this anymore, for now at least. So we need to dye these 3 pieces. We'll start with the smaller ones. Now I need to decide what color to dye them. I know that my friend wants them brown. I'm not quite sure what kind of brown to go for though. Whether I should go for the light brown, the cognac, or the darker brown, which is a little bit more reddish. I think I will go for the cognac brown. Or should I go for the reddish brown? Oh no. So what's this? This is, I think, a lighter cognac. This is the actual cognac. I think I'm gonna go for the light brown. It's a lot neater, I find. So yeah. Okay. So basically, I'm going to be applying the dye using a sponge brush, and I'm going to use like some old piece of cloth to just wipe the excess off, so it doesn't pool and it doesn't oversaturate any particular area. In this case, I think it's best if we just remove the mat from underneath, so it's just an easier way. Okay. So I can move all the pieces over. It's fine if I stain the workbench underneath. As you can see, there's black dye everywhere, so it's really not that much of an issue. What I need to avoid is, oh come on, spilling. Oh come, there we go. I need to avoid spilling on, over the different pieces. We'll start with the smallest one first. And the way to do this is obviously dip the brush, make sure to remove excess okay, and then starting off from the edges. Okay, okay. Usually I wouldn't bother doing the backs, but for completeness sake, let's just do the back as well. It doesn't take a lot more dye. Usually make sure to do all the edges properly. Some people finish the edges in a different color or use like an edging edge dye, something of the sort. In my case, I just use the same dye and then burnish them with beeswax. So as you can see over here, it's pooling, so I'm just going to give it a bit of a quick rub and go back over the areas which seem a little bit less saturated. Now this is the top face of the leather, so this is important that it looks even. Once it dries, it will look really, really nice. And you can see already the difference in contrast between the two pieces of leather. Let's do the belt loop piece. Now this is important because there's the Corso Workshop logo, of course, Corso Workshop, of course, logo on it. So that will soak up a little bit more dye and it will look darker. Even if it does not, I'm going to go back and antique it once I actually apply the resist on top. I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much, Chief.
Is it possible to carve on already dyed leather?
Is it? Sorry?
To carve an already dyed leather?
Yes, of course, it is definitely possible. The reason why you wouldn't do that usually is because when you're carving, you're actually cutting into the leather. You're not pressing it. And even if you were pressing, like if you were tooling, if you are cutting into the leather, you are exposing the leather underneath the dye. Now, it depends what kind of dyeing you do. If you do something like this, I am mostly dyeing the surface of the leather and it seeps in a little bit into the fibers. If you're doing something like a dip dye and you actually let it soak up a lot of dye, you may find that the leather is dyed evenly throughout, in which case it doesn't really matter. Now, if you do the technique which I use, which is the surface sort of brushing on and the dyeing of the dye, and basically you'll find that if you carve it afterwards, you'll find the lighter colored leather underneath, and it just doesn't look as nice. You can go back over and re-dye it if you want, but freshly exposed fibers usually tend to absorb a lot more and they tend to be darker, and even the outlines around them, you'll find that around the carving there will be a lot more saturation, which is why I try not to let it pool. But that's actually a very good question as well. Thank you, man. Okay. Yeah. Obviously, the more applications you do of the dye, the more the darker or more saturated it's going to be. So keep that in mind. I can make it look as light as I want or as dark as I want. You can also mix some certain dyes, especially if they're of the same kind. Like for example, this cognac and the purple that I have, they mix well together because they're both water-soluble dyes. My black dye is an alcohol-based dye, which is why it erodes most of the sponge brushes that I use. Makes them crumble. Okay, it's a nice even brown. Okay, and you can see the difference. I may go back and apply another coat. Actually, I'm just going to do that now to make it look a tiny bit darker. I'm just going to avoid pooling. Yeah. See, naturally the dye is going to pool, like it's going to leave streaks. So just make sure to remove it. Just let it soak up a little bit, then wipe it off, and you're good to go. Okay. Cool. Cool. Okay. Now, the inside of the quiver, I am not going to be dyeing. It's going to get roughed up by arrow tips anyway. I'm just going to do like a small band on top. The edge, however, I will dye. I will dye the edge. Okay, starting from the top. Ooh, okay. We're dripping dye everywhere. This is fine. Okay. Sorry if this isn't very easy to show on camera, but it's basically just me going over the sides, making a bit of a mess though. Okay, I'm dripping dye everywhere. Let's just wipe up quickly. Okay. Okay. Yeah. As usual. I should be wearing gloves for this sort of thing, but I don't really care. Just dye a band on top over here, which is mostly going to show when using the quiver. I'm just going to try and leave a clean line. And there. The rest I'm not going to dye. It's not worth dyeing. It's never going to show unless you open up the quiver again. So, okay, it's clean. So see, for example, over here we dropped a little bit of dye. We're just going to go and quickly go over the area so that it looks quite even. Let's start from the bottom so we can blend that in. I'm using quite a lot of dye. As you can see, the outlines quickly get very, very dark. You have to do multiple coats on this quiver, especially to avoid pooling. Also, the dye will bring out defects in the leather. To me, that is a bonus because it gives every piece its own character. No two quivers will look the same, even if you do the same carving on them and use the exact same dimensions. The slight imperfections in the skin will give it a little bit of character and make every item unique. However, if you do not see it the way I do and you prefer having every piece pristine, there are different grades of leather which you can use. Obviously varying in price, but you'll certainly find that they have less imperfections. Obviously, the younger the cow is when it is, actually, I mean, leather comes from cows. The younger it is, if it's calf leather, for example, you'll find that it will be less damaged because it will have less time to have like mosquito bites and insect bites on it, and that sort of thing. It's an unfortunate reality. It's not nice to think about, but it's better than wasting the rest of the cow anyway. Okay, I'm going across now to remove pooling. In this case, since I'm using one dip, it's not really pooling a lot. I'm seeing some bubbles forming up. That is where the dye is seeping into the leather. Probably if I were to use a lot more, I'll find blotches in the back, which I don't really mind in this case. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over again with a heavy amount of dye around the wolf, and basically I'm going to let it soak up. The idea is so that it really seeps into the carving. But I'm still not going to let it cool. But as you can see, the outline now looks a lot more darker. It will actually get even darker once we apply the resist and once we apply the antique. Okay. I'm going to give it a few minutes to. So I'm going to retouch this. This part is a little bit faint. I want to let this dry for a few minutes. It won't take long at all. In fact, I don't even think I'm going to put it outside to dry. Let me just get. I got an oven rack, which I repurposed to dry stuff on and spray stuff. Ooh, wait, that reminds me. Okay, as long as it's the flash side, it's fine. As I remembered, I was spraying stuff on this earlier this week. Excuse me? On the sink. Can you hold this for me? While it dries. Just give it a few seconds. So in the meantime. Okay, so are there any questions from the chat? In the meantime, I'll give it a few minutes if there are any questions or comments to say or to ask. Okay. In the meantime, I'll start clearing up again. Excuse me? Have I ever mixed dye colors together? I would like to say no, but yes, I have before because it's not. I mean, that's how you learn them. It depends. You can. Okay, so let's give you an example. These two. Let's show them on camera. This is the cognac. Yes. For example, these two are the dark brown leather dye and the light brown leather dye. This is the one that we're using right now. When it is mixed properly, it gives the results that I was showing earlier. You can make it darker by mixing the two together, and the reason is because they are both water soluble. You can try mixing black dye or any other color dye together. However, I find that they need to be miscible. It's a little bit of basic chemistry, really. Like dissolves like. So water soluble dyes will mix with water soluble dyes. Non-water soluble dyes like alcohol dyes usually tend not to. You could definitely blend. Yes, you can definitely blend. Yes, you can. But you'll always get one color. Then there's a little bit of color theory as well, because like some colors will overpower the others. Like even if you're mixing paints, like a drop of black will almost always take over the mixture. So yes.
For carving, a 3mm or 4mm would be okay.
Let me see if I have. You can carve any thickness of vegetable tanned leather. You can carve any thickness, really. The thing is, you need a different level of finesse, and you need to be very delicate, because you're using a blade essentially. Whether it's steel or ceramic, you're using a blade. So when you're carving, you're cutting into the leather. If you press too hard, you're going to poke out the other side. Usually 3mm is not bad. I feel like I've done 3 or 4mm before. I think I've had pieces. Perhaps that the White Fangs book story that I did for the Witcher school thing, it's probably 3 or 4mm. I would avoid it. I would caution, especially how do you say, people who are trying out leather carving for the first time. If you're just starting in leather carving, I would avoid 3 or 4mm, because it's very easy to poke through. Especially if you're sort of going over the same lines which you did just to make them look cleaner, you will I won't say inevitably, but you're very likely to cut through the leather. I would
Definitely.
start about 5 or 6 mil leather. I don't know how that translates to ounces. The ones that I use are about 7 to 8 mil or 9 mil. It depends on what kind of leather I get and what kind of purpose I'm using. So it gives me a lot of leeway to be a little bit aggressive in my carving. So I don't need to really be very delicate and very gentle with it. I can just carve away and it works just fine. Were you going to say something?
No, because you were mentioning that for a beginner, sort of if they do book you, it gets very frustrating. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, it's a very
Mhm.
expensive
That is true.
hobby to start trying out, and
That's true. What Chief is saying is that yes, I mean making mistakes as a beginner is very frustrating, especially with leatherworking, because leather is a rather expensive. Let me just swap the camera. Um, what Chief was saying earlier was that making mistakes in leatherworking as you're starting out can be very frustrating because leather is not a cheap material to start off with. Leather is expensive. There's no two ways about it, especially vegetable tanned leather. Especially if you live in a country like me, which does not have a ready supply to it, you have to always import. So there are also shipping fees and perhaps tax fees that you need to importation fees that you need to pay. So overall, I can say that a piece of a side of leather can cost me around 250 euros. Normal. I can make several projects out of it, of course, but it's expensive to make mistakes on. So I understand that, and perhaps 2 to 3 to 4 mil might not be the best starting material to test this on. However, however, it is to be said that, as in any kind of craft, making mistakes is how you learn. Okay, it is not something that people say just to try and make you feel better. It is fact. Um, I messed up many carvings before I realized that I should not overshoot the lines, or not to keep on going and maybe to stop short and then go back with the blade and carve the other way so as not to have like a crisp edge. It's not the first time that I ruin tools because I used a metal hammer on a metal stamp and they all end up flaring on the top and then they don't press properly because you don't have an even surface to hammer on. I mean, these mistakes, they may be costly, it's true, but it is how it's a process of learning. Luckily, we have the internet, so like on YouTube, you can find videos by Dark Horse Workshop, Adam Savage, a lot of other good leather. Skill Tree does a lot of leatherworking videos. Maybe if if you pardon my lack of humility, my own videos on my channel. You can see us telling you about what to look out for. You can see me making mistakes so that you don't have to do them yourself and keep them in mind. But yes, going back to the original question, 3 to 4 mil leather can be carved. Yes, definitely. There's no issue with it. The problem is it needs to be a little bit more. You need to be a little bit fine and delicate with it. Make sure not to poke out the other side. I would probably use a ceramic blade to so that you won't have to press really hard on the steel. That being said, steel blades can also be very sharp if you hone them properly. So I hope that answered that question. But on a side note, I really encourage people sort of to try out leatherworking. It's a very fun and engaging process. It's very satisfying, especially when you can get the satisfaction. I've always said it since the very first project I've made, even the first video I've uploaded on leatherworking. You can always get gratification, satisfaction at every step of the way in leather carving, whether you're templating, cutting out the leather, tracing the carving, carving it out, stamping it, sewing it together. You'll always get a satisfaction
like
along every step.
immediate result.
It's very immediate satisfaction. You don't need. It's not like woodworking where like you can get the satisfaction once you finish the wood and
Weeks
like,
later.
oh look, like 3 weeks later, look at that cabinet, how grand it looks. No, you don't need that for leatherworking. You can get satisfaction along the way because you're seeing your results step by step, and that's something which really helps me get into the project. Something like woodworking doesn't do that at all. I love woodworking anyway, but yeah. So I hope that answers that question.
Okay.
Let us know if you have any further questions. I'm just going to go rinse this brush, get the leather back, and see if I can start putting resist on it. Okay, then open it. Let's get the leather back. Sorry. leather belt loop and oh, you're welcome. Very welcome. Goes in. Let us swap the cameras back again. Okay. It is not 100% dry. Ideally, I would leave this to dry overnight, perhaps. Not done. I'm not sure whether I should, to be honest. I kind of want to get this project over and done with. I won't do the stitching today. Stitching alone takes about an hour and a half. And so that's obviously I'll be doing off camera. Wouldn't be much of a live stream otherwise. Perhaps I can have a guest perhaps over and we can have a chat while I sew. But yeah, I'm just wiping dust and debris off the pieces. What? Oh. Okay. So we're going to be applying a resist, and the resist has two functions. The first one is to protect the leather, well, give it some sort of protection from weather, which is makes it a little bit water resistant. And secondly, it will allow us to apply the antique-on without darkening the dye too much. It is going to darken it, but it won't look like a blackish brown rather than an antique piece. So we're going to start with the resist. I have here here. I store my resists in smaller bottles. I usually buy a large bottle like this and just fill up the smaller ones whenever I need. Also makes it a little bit more portable as well. I'm going to be using a sponge brush. I just need to damp this because you should be using a sort of damp brush when applying the resist. So just a second. Okay. Okay. So damp brush ready. Shake the resist a couple of times to make sure it is well mixed and it doesn't deposit. One thing to keep in mind, if you live in colder countries, I do not have this problem here, but if you live in colder countries, make sure it doesn't freeze. If it's frozen, you can just throw it away. It crystallizes and it basically ruins all your projects. So the way I'm going to apply it is, actually I think I'm going to start with the smaller ones first. Just apply it in long strokes to avoid having brush strokes as much as possible, which is why I use a sponge brush. Sponge brush. It still leaves some strokes. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go across to sort of cover evenly and then go back long strokes like this. Leave it to set for a few seconds, literally a few seconds, and then I'm going to wipe it off with a piece of cloth. Okay, so I'll leave it there, sit a little bit more. You can see it sort of starts going from opaque to clear because it's absorbed in the fibers and starts to dry. Once that happens, you just remove the excess. And you'll know that there is still a film on it because when you push a finger on, you can see your the imprint of your finger, which you can just wipe away. I'm just going to give it another coat. Again, let it seep in. And while that is seeping in, I can start working on the next piece. Okay. Doing the same thing, long strokes. So I'm going to wipe this one now, make sure there aren't brush strokes. So this one is finished. You can see it has a little bit of a sheen to it when compared to the rest. It has a bit of a sheen to it, and that is the resist. Okay. I know that this is not the way most people apply resist or Resolene or any kind of finish on the leather. A lot of people use spray guns, which helps get an even coat. In my case, I don't have a spray gun. I don't want to invest in one just for the sake of spraying some resist on the leather. This works just fine. Hey, that's Maya.
Oh, hi Maya. Said I love the wolf design.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you very much for joining and for commenting and for the nice words. Of course, you'd love a wolf, though.
It's in her name.
Yeah.
Literally in her name.
Going across. I'm looking forward to your next leatherworking project. Your next wood burning as well. Yeah, your wood burning projects were really good. Okay. Let it seep in a little bit. I just want to finish this one before moving on to the bigger piece, because the bigger piece will require a little bit more attention. She's not just, she's chief now. Okay. As you may have noticed, the resist darkens the leather a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind. Doesn't darken it a lot, it gives it a little bit more depth. So yeah, just be aware of that. Okay, again, we have that nice sheen on the leather. I may actually just leave it as this, as in apply the resist and call it quits. Because I really like the sheen on the leather. I may probably go back and apply another coat of resist after the antiquing, but we'll get to it. Okay, so let's start on the bigger piece. Now, this will be a little bit more difficult to apply evenly all throughout, so I think the best thing to do is try to do smaller areas. Let's see how that... I'm going to start with the smaller sides though, smaller side first. I'm going to be doing strokes on the shorter side of the leather. So that I don't have long waving strokes across. Okay. While I'm doing the rest of the quiver, basically the other piece, the other side will be drying off. So yeah. One thing I like to do really is get resist down in that design. That way it will not mix with the... It won't mix with the antique once I apply it. Okay, going back, and we can start wiping off some of it. Now, just go in and try to clean up most of it, because that will sometimes will remain a little bit white, so you want to dull that as much as possible. Okay. Okay. All right. That looks really nice. I think I'll give it another coat. Okay. Ooh, yeah, I'm a little bit clumsy sometimes, if you haven't noticed yet. Okay. The resist is a bit of a rubbery material once it dries, so it's very easily peeled off like silicone implements. I don't worry too much about getting it on my fingers. So okay. Now look at that sheen. That looks really nice. Looks even better in person, I can assure you. Just getting rid of um, the excess resist, and now just buff it with a cleaner cloth. I wonder if I should antique the piece. I think I will leave it as is. What do you think? Shall I antique?
Oh, it's nice.
It's nice as is, huh? Yeah. Well, now we'll leave the.
Don't want to touch it.
If we darken it too much, and I think it will take off a lot of the good like features of it. Come on. Closing the resist. I'm just going to wipe the brush again. Make sure it's clean. Okay. There we go. Clean. Perfect. So that's 6 o'clock over here. That's right on time to start wrapping things up. So in 2 hours, basically we carved, stamped, dyed, and applied resist. Yeah, that looks really nice. That looks really nice. Okay. Nice. So this is the carving which we made earlier. Look at that. Looks really nice, especially with the resist on it. Really, really makes it pop. All the character and the leather, all the different like scratches and wrinkles and blotches come out. I love that. I love it in leather. I mean, I know a lot of people consider it like defects or like bad thing to have on leather. I don't really understand why leather needs to be so perfect. Um, it's like it's a living thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you wanted something perfect, just use synthetic material. But like when something is organic, is living, like it's harvested from a living animal. I mean, it has to have defects. It has to be unique. You know, it's like that's the way I see it. Okay, nice. Okay, that's about it. So the next step, which I may not do on camera, is basically to burnish the edges where they're going to be single. Like I think um, these edges, yes, the sides of the belt loop and the belt loop itself, around this piece and around the mouth, the top of the quiver, the opening of the quiver, those will be burnished using beeswax and a burnishing tool. Then I'm going to rivet these pieces together. Actually, stitch this closed first, burnish these edges, stitch it everything together, rivet everything together, and then stitch it closed, and it will be done. I think I'll do that along the week off camera, because it will be a little bit boring to show on camera. It's just me stitching for about an hour and a half. Okay, so that concludes the live stream for this evening. I hope that you enjoyed this. I really had fun carving. I usually have a lot of fun carving, and this was one such occasion. The results are speaking for themselves, I believe. It's looking really, really nice. Again, the design was procured from Dark Horse Workshop, so there's a link in for his website down below in the description, so make sure to go give it a go. He also has great YouTube videos, which I can't even begin to plug because he's such a skilled leather worker. I highly encourage you to go visit him if you don't follow him already. Um, so yeah, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for participating in the chat. The questions have been really interesting to answer. I hope that I've done a good job answering them as well. So feel free to let me know in the comments below if you have any further questions. I'll see to it that I answer them. In the meantime, excuse me.
Thanks for the stream. Looking forward to see the end results, Adrian.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Matt. I'm looking forward to your next project as well. So I'll be keeping an eye out for your next video. I wanted to also remind people that we have the new schedule up and running now, and there will be regular posts on Instagram. I believe on Mondays, Wednesdays, and I think Tuesdays. I think Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Was it? It's not listed on the banner, but we're going.
Tuesdays and Saturdays you have new videos.
Yes, and then on
Sundays,
YouTube.
and
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Yes, it keeps me in line. Um, so yeah, Tuesdays and Saturdays we'll have new content up on YouTube. We'll have shorts on Tuesdays and on alternate Saturdays, and alternate Saturdays we'll have content videos for project videos, full blown ones. The only exception is next week, where on Tuesday we'll be having the May the 4th sort of special video. It's going to be the Jedi Holocron, which we designed on a live stream some time ago with Jason, Evelina, and Melissa as well. So there's that to look forward to next Tuesday. If you are a patron, you are lucky and you're going to see the video later on tonight or early tomorrow morning. So keep an eye out. And if you'd like to be one of the patrons, feel free to join. There is a link in the description below as well. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you had fun and that you enjoyed this brief live stream. And I'll see you live next Sunday. In the meantime, I'll see you on social media. Make sure to drop comments, ask me questions. I'll see to it that I answer them. So take care, stay safe, keep on making stuff, and I'll see you soon.